The heavens were shaken when the veil between the mortal realm and eternity was lifted, and 5 prophets, chosen from different generations, were granted visions of the eternal King who rides upon the cherubim. Each one trembled as their eyes beheld the uncontainable glory of the Lord. For to see God is to see fire, holiness, and power that no flesh can endure. Yet in his mercy he allowed them a glimpse. Ezekiel, by the river Chebar, saw the heavens open and the throne of sapphire encircled by living creatures with 4 faces and wings that touched one another. Their sound like the roar of rushing waters and the stampede of armies, and above them, enthroned in radiant splendor, was a figure like glowing metal surrounded by fire. Ezekiel fell face down, overwhelmed by the sight, as the Spirit lifted him, showing him the chariot throne of God moving swiftly across the heavens, carried by the cherubim whose eyes covered every part of their bodies, watching all things under the dominion of the Almighty. Centuries earlier, Isaiah was taken into the temple of the Lord, and though he did not see cherubim, he saw the fiery seraphim, crying, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory." And the temple shook at their voices. Isaiah's lips were unclean before the blazing presence, but God purified him with a coal from the altar, commissioning him to speak. Though he did not describe the cherubim as Ezekiel did, he knew the throne was guarded by them, and in that moment he realized that the one who rode upon them was beyond measure, beyond understanding, dwelling in infinite holiness. Daniel in Babylon also saw visions in the night, and though his words were veiled in mystery, he described the Ancient of Days seated upon a throne of fiery flames, its wheels burning with fire, attended by thousands upon thousands, and books were opened before him. Daniel's vision echoed the same chariot throne that Ezekiel saw, with wheels within wheels, suggesting the movement of cherubim carrying the divine presence swiftly wherever God willed. And Daniel's heart melted at the sight, yet he recorded it faithfully, knowing that God rides upon his angels to execute judgment and to reign over all kingdoms. Habakkuk too had a trembling encounter, for when he prayed, he saw God coming from Teman. Pestilence marched before him, plague followed at his heels, and the prophet cried that the mountains shook and the deep waters roared at the approach of the Almighty, who made the sun and moon stand still. Lord striding across the heavens as a warrior king, the same God who is described as riding on the cherubim and flying on the wings of the wind. Psalm 18 verse 10. And Habakkuk's body trembled, his lips quivered, and yet he declared, "For no vision of God leaves a prophet unchanged." Then came John on the Isle of Patmos, last of the 5, who in exile was caught up in the Spirit, and saw a throne in heaven with someone seated on it surrounded by a rainbow that shone like an emerald. Before the throne were 4 living creatures, like Ezekiel's cherubim, each covered with eyes, one like a lion, one like an ox, one with a face like a man, and one like an eagle in flight. They never ceased crying, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord God Almighty, who was, and is to come," and the elders cast their crowns before him. In the heavens there was lightning, peals of thunder, and fire, as the cherubim carried out the will of the one who sat on the throne. Each prophet, though separated by centuries, bore witness to the same reality, that God rides upon the cherubim, dwelling between them in unapproachable light. Moving swiftly across creation, enthroned in glory beyond human grasp, yet choosing to reveal himself in visions to frail men. Ezekiel gave us the clearest description of the cherubim, creatures of fire and movement whose wings thunder like armies and whose eyes reflect the knowledge of God. Isaiah, undone by holiness, reminds us that cherubim and seraphim alike cry out the eternal anthem of heaven. Daniel saw the throne's fiery wheels and the Ancient of Days in judgment. Habakkuk saw the Lord's march across the earth as pestilence, and power followed him. John saw the culmination. The throne surrounded by living creatures crying out forever, and the Lamb who reigns with the one seated there. When God rides upon cherubim, creation shakes, mountains bow, seas roar, nations tremble, prophets fall on their faces, and yet in his mercy, he raises them up to speak his word.